The sudden resignation over the weekend of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican from Georgia, is exposing who's actually in this for themselves on the woke right and who's actually in this for the cause. Marjorie Taylor Greene is resigning 2 days after her pension kicks in for the rest of her life, where she'll be getting hundreds of thousands of dollars of your taxpayer dollars. In addition to that, somehow earning a government salary, she went from a net worth of around $700,000 when she first went into office to $40 million in only 6 years. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been one of the loudest voices of the woke right, and now has spent the last few weeks demonizing President Trump, Republicans, MAGA. She has now become the poster child for the Democrat Party. In fact, Jamie Raskin, who is a Democrat, invited her to join the Democrat Party. The woke right's aims are to divide MAGA, are to divide Republicans, and from the polling have actually been helping Democrats. The Heritage Foundation stupidly took a side of Tucker Carlson after he platformed white supremacist Nick Fuentes. And the Heritage Foundation for years was a leader in conservative thought. Well, now they're facing massive resignations and people running away from that organization because they backed Tucker Carlson, who is basically doing everything except for saying Trump's name, which is a form of cowardice. If you have a problem with President Trump, say his name, but he doesn't want to lose access, so he doesn't. So, after him talking so wonderfully about a white supremacist and enjoying his time with the white supremacist, the Heritage Foundation went to his defense. Well, it cost him a lot of support, including Rabbi Yaakov Menken and the Coalition for Jewish Values, which is over 1,000 Orthodox rabbis who support conservative principles. Rabbi Yaakov Menken joins us for an in-depth interview about what the woke right is doing to MAGA, is doing to the Republican Party, and worse yet, is doing to the country. Give a listen. Rabbi Menken, welcome back to the show. Such a pleasure to have you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Always a pleasure. So, Rabbi, let's get into the weeds with regard to what's going on with the Heritage Foundation. Your organization stands out as something that I know a lot of people assume that every single Jew is not Republican, every single Jew is a Democrat, every single Jew is a liberal. Your organization comes out all the time and stands for traditional Jewish values, which oftentimes line up with traditional conservative values. So this whole thing must be like watching a train wreck for you.
The right wing, absolutely. You know, what we've been inured to, we've been assumed that it's going to happen on the left. It's permeated the entire Democratic Party. But now you see the same kind of hate arising on the right. That's a problem. And the fact that Heritage Foundation, which is the largest conservative think tank in the country, decided to coddle it rather than confront it. That's a problem for us.
So let's get into what Tucker Carlson did and compare it to the likes of Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, and all that. Tucker Carlson will claim he's just asking questions, but I noticed that during his interview with Nick Fuentes or anybody else since he got kicked off Fox News, if he actually wants to grill you, he will grill you. If he wants to give you a platform to voice whatever insanity you want to spew, he's more than happy doing that. I mean, Rabbi, you do interviews all the time. I have people on my show all the time. If I want to push back, I push back. You can tell when it's a softball interview, and you can tell when I'm really ramped up. It seems to me like Tucker Carlson would rather platform the Russian dictator. He would rather platform the people who are white supremacists. It seems like that's his MO right now.
You know, it is a little bit crazy because, you know, you're looking at the values are clear. The way forward is actually clear. And you know, I want to go back to something that you said initially, is that everybody looks at the Jewish community and thinks, oh, the Jews are a bunch of leftists. The reality is that even if you would accept anybody who claims to be a rabbi as a rabbi, the Orthodox community has more rabbis by orders of magnitude, more than all the left-wing clergy in America. Because for them, they need somebody who's going to lead a mega synagogue, you know, a couple thousand members who never show up. Whereas in the Orthodox community, on every corner, you're finding another synagogue and a lot of rabbis who never become I never had a pulpit, and I'm a rabbi, right? Most yeshiva students never become pulpit rabbis. And yet, Lakewood, New Jersey alone, more rabbis than there are left-wing Jewish clergy in the whole country, just in that institution, just in the current student body, much less all the people that they've already graduated. So that tells you the learned, informed Jews actually hew to traditional Jewish values, which, as you said, largely align with traditional conservative. And by the way, that's not coincidence. The founding fathers referred to the book of Deuteronomy, that's our Devarim, more than any other book in guiding them forward to what are the values of that America would be founded upon. Now, where this has gone, Tucker Carlson is not just asking questions. He is using the rhetoric of the left. This idea that Israelis trying to rescue hostages are committing genocide. It's nuts, right? It's just insanity. Now, furthermore, he went with on Dave Smith's podcast. Now, Dave Smith is another anti-Semite with his own set of problems. And Tucker Carlson agrees to go on his podcast. So that's the first problem. And on the podcast, he says that Ben Shapiro and Lindsey Graham and anybody who would defend Israel, and the Israelis, of course, themselves, they enjoy the killing. They enjoy the godlike power of annihilating their enemy, of extinguishing human life. Now, that is abhorrent rhetoric. That's obviously designed to incite hatred. First of all, there's nobody better than Ben Shapiro for talking about nonviolent dialogue as a method of resolving conflict. That's what Ben Shapiro is all about. I want to show you that my ideas are better than your ideas, and the only way we're going to prove that, we're going to shout each other down. We're going to talk about it. That's number one. But number two, look at the Israelis. Look, if the Israelis wanted to commit genocide, they were able to disable the entire Iranian Air Force in 72 hours. If they wanted to commit genocide, there is no Air Force in Gaza. If the Israelis wanted to commit genocide in Gaza, it'd be done already. There'd be millions of dead. Instead, even with all the conflict, the Gazan lifespan remains longer than an Egyptian because of superior medical care that you're getting largely from the Israelis. When somebody is really sick in Gaza, they're getting it from the Israelis. So, this idea that the Israelis are hostile, that's simply born of anti-Semitism. And that's what that Tucker Carlson is spewing.
So I'm seeing this happen on social media. I'm seeing this happen on the internet. I'm not seeing so much of it in real life. What I'm seeing in real life is people keep coming up to me whenever I do a public event or whenever I'm out in the open, and people come up to me and say, I support Israel. God bless Israel. God bless you. Am Yisrael Chai, which is my favorite thing that I get to me all the time. It's like a coffee order. But I hear that all the time. And now I'm starting to see it kind of leak over as people are discussing it on their podcast. Megyn Kelly is continuously defending Tucker Carlson, which I don't understand why. Now she's defending Candace Owens, which I don't understand why. I used to have a lot of respect for Megyn Kelly. I don't think she's an anti-Semite. I think for whatever reason, she is tragically misguided. So how much of this do you think is real life? For example, what happened with the Heritage Foundation? How much of this do you think is internet outrage? Because I know my listeners, when I do my show, a lot of them keep asking me to clarify what's going on. I sometimes talk about it, assuming they know, and they don't, because a lot of it's internet life, which is spilling over into real life.
The internet offers a great center for indoctrination. Especially that X, now that everything is divided in silos and you keep getting more content like the stuff you respond to. So when you say yay team to an anti-Semite, you get more anti-Semitic content. That's how you get, I saw the Israelis with a helicopter gunship gun down a child, wait for the family to assemble, and then gun them all down. Now, that's exactly the type of conduct which the terrorists of Hamas have actually done. But that that's complete fiction with regards to Israel. That the Israelis have actually distinguished themselves at minimizing civilian casualties during urban warfare to a literally unprecedented degree. And in fact, the casualties in the entire Israel-Gaza conflict are fewer than in any other major conflict over the last 20 years. How did that happen? Because the Israelis are trying very hard to limit the casualties to combatants. And the combatants are quite deliberately, in this case, more than almost any other, hiding themselves behind civilians, using civilians as human shields. Everything that they accuse Israel of is something that Hamas and its protectors are actually doing themselves. And that's how the thing really works. And the problem is that people get deluded. If they were friends with Tucker Carlson before, they want to remain friends with Tucker Carlson now. If they liked somebody on X before, they want to remain with that person on X now. And obviously, people do change sometimes in very good ways, sometimes in very evil ways. And that's it.
Yeah. And something that's mind boggling to me is how much they're bashing President Trump and still thinking they're staying in his good graces because they won't mention him by name. They're coming down against so many policies of his, and they're going against America. They're going against what he did in Iran, which was heroic and amazing and incredible for the United States to do. And they're saying that he's going to get us into World War III without saying his name. They're making Epstein accusations against him without saying his name. They're basically claiming the president of the United States is doing a massive cover up for a convicted sex offender without saying his name, just because they're cowards and worried about losing his good graces. But I notice I haven't seen a lot of these people at the White House anymore. It seems to me that they're trying to take down the Trump administration. They're trying to take down MAGA. They're trying to take down the GOP. They're trying to take down the conservative movement, when it seemed like there was an unprecedented level of being united following the 2024 election.
They really are. It's horrifying to see, even from a political standpoint. Certainly from a moral standpoint, this stuff is completely outrageous, and a loss of decency that conservatism, the whole name, conservatism, what are they trying to conserve? They're trying to conserve traditional values. That's the whole point. Conserve traditional pro-moral, pro-family policies that made America great in the first place. And they're just, a lot, sadly, there were even some surveys done on the right that show that these young, the Groyper crowd, the folks who like Nick Fuentes, it's not that they actually want anything. They just want to burn the building down. It sounds like Antifa because it really is. It may be that one is a leftist group and one is a right-wing group, but really, in both cases, all they want to do is tear America down and make the great country that the founding fathers built something that nobody will be proud of. We'll make another Venezuela out of it. I mean, look what's happening in New York. They literally elected a Maduro to lead them. Fine, his name is Mamdani, but his policies are the same, and it's going to lead in the same direction.
So, Rabbi, what's the solution here? Let's say you have the ear of President Trump. He's sitting in front of you right now, and he says, I don't want MAGA to tear itself apart. We lost somebody who was a uniter, especially behind the scenes like Charlie Kirk. What do you tell him is the path forward here? Because the amazing thing about Charlie Kirk was there was only one Charlie Kirk. I didn't realize how much he was doing behind the scenes to hold all this together, to keep everybody from different sides together. What do you tell the president is the path forward? What, you kick these people out of the movement? You publicly condemn them? You say we're done with the Heritage Foundation? What's the way forward in all this?
I don't think you have to go to the point of saying like anything against the Heritage Foundation. You just go after the ones who are actually spreading hate. Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, they don't belong in a movement of decent people. Look, like David Duke, they're going to vote for you anyway. So you don't need to be soliciting their support. What are they going to do? Vote for Kamala Harris? Really? So you just call it like it is. You have to confront the haters. The young people need to know that there actually is such a thing as a moral compass. And people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, they're on the wrong side. In fact, like if you go back in the annals of anti-Semitism, and this is way before anybody in the current generations were born. But, rabbis in the late 19th century writing about anti-Semitism, trying to clarify it to people. Anti-Semitism, you want to know an anti-Semite? An anti-Semite believes that any Jewish property is somehow ill-gotten gain, fraud, and deceit. And that's because the Jews feel that they get to be unfair to everybody else, take advantage of everybody else, desecrate what everybody else holds dear. And now you've summarized everything that those three people have to say, and the Squad, and the entire Palestine movement, for that matter, in just those two lines. Just those two tropes.
Yeah.
And by the way, those two tropes, just understand how this started on the left, those are the only two things that AOC claimed to know about the Middle East when she was elected to Congress. She wins her first election. She goes on NPR firing line And they ask her, and she says it's about the increasing occupation in Palestine. Jews owning land in the Jewish homeland is stealing. That's number one. And not allowing Palestinians to access their homes, which isn't just nonsense, because it's completely untrue, but it's also anti Semitic nonsense. The Jews feel that they get to be unfair to everybody else. Look, remember, let's be sane, people. It's the Palestinian terrorists are the reason that you have to go through a humiliating checkpoint just to board an airplane. They only just changed the rules recently. You don't have to take your shoes off anymore. Until now, it's yeah, take off your shoes. The Israelis don't make them take off their shoes, but they're there protecting lives. But they're protecting primarily Jewish lives from Arabs who want to kill them. Oh, that's evil. That's humiliating. That's bad. That's not how reality works.
Yeah, it's really not. And it's crazy that those are the tropes they immediately jump to. In the last few minutes we have with Rabbi Yaakov Menken from the Coalition of of Jewish Values. So, Rabbi, looking at all the rabbis that signed that letter against Mamdani, I was thrilled to see conservative Jewish, which is not our kind of conservative. It's not conservative politically. It's actually usually very left. Reform Judaism, which is traditionally very left, signing that letter against Mamdani. Do you think this is what has happened since October 7th? Do you think what is happening in the conservative movement? Do you think what's happening in the Democrat movement? Do you think all this is finally bringing together Jews who normally wouldn't see eye to eye on politics? Or do you think that I'm just being overly optimistic and that this is one little corner of the world for one little specific election because of one specific guy?
There's a whole phenomenon called the October 8th Jew. And the October 8th Jew is the one who woke up on October 8th, 2023, and realized progressives are not my friends. This entire philosophy, this is completely unreasonable. These people never wanted peace. They don't advocate for peace. There is nobody on campus advocating for peace. They should be rejoicing in the ceasefire, right? They're not. They're still claiming that Israel's killing because the Israelis still neutralize terrorists who try to do things, nasty things to Jews. So it must be that the violence continues and it's all the Jews' fault. That's their philosophy, because it's all about demonizing the Jews until we can incite enough people that they will commit genocide once again. It's right. They're directly aiming at Hitler's final solution. And that is, by the way, that's the entire Students for Justice in Palestine right there in a nutshell. When can we implement Hitler's final solution? Maybe we'll start with our campus and just get Jews out of our campus, and we'll start there. They have done a great job, by the way, getting people to go study in Israel. I'll tell you that. Or go study in Florida where they won't face anti-Semitism. It's possible to do it better, but the Ivy League will not. They're not interested in being actual academic institutions anymore. They're interested in being leftist indoctrination centers. I graduated from Princeton University when it was a real university. I know what it was like at the time. It's crazy now. And that's the way forward here is to reclaim the moral values that made America great and say, look, this is what has to happen.
Rabbi Yaakov Menken from the Coalition of Jewish Values. I couldn't agree with you more. That's why my two sons are actually in Israel right now. One of them serving in the IDF, having just finished up college there, and the other one actually at Yeshivat HaKotel. But I appreciate you joining us so much, shed a little light on what's going on, and thank you so much for standing strong, not just for Jewish values, but also for conservative values as well.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.